Thank you all for coming. Wow, great crowd. Blake told me I could talk about anything I wanted, so this is really what I want to talk about. And that's because I've been a designer for a little over 30 years, and I've seen some amazing changes in our field. Now, overall, I've seen it grow in size and importance, and the changes are accelerating. In the last 5 years, I've seen more happen than the previous 25. And there's a recent article in Fast Company that declared that the rate of disruptive change has become so great that constant chaos is now the norm. That's the normal state of business. But out of this chaos is opportunity, especially for us who are involved in media and design. So I'm going to show you why. But first, just to give you some context of where I'm coming from, I want to just take a moment to tell you about my company. Primal Screen began 17 years ago as a digital design firm, and we're still at it, telling stories on every electronic platform. There's 25 of us, which includes designers, directors, animators, illustrators, developers, and producers. We're well known for our work in children's entertainment. We designed PBS Kids and PBS Kids Go, Cartoon Network, Nick Jr. We relaunched GMC last year, and we launched Boomerang and Sprout and Animania and Nick and T-Nick and Virgin Air's Onboard Network. And we do a lot of work for HGTV and Turner Classic Movies and Family Channel, Disney and Spike and Adult Swim and CNN and Sundance Film Festival. And we've done websites and games for Cheerios and Mike the Knight, Wimpy Kids. We've done commercials for cereal and yogurt and toys and mattresses and Bubs and Monsters and video games. We do a show for HBO Family called El Perro y el Gato, and one for PBS Kids called Prankster Planet. And we've done quite a few more things. But I won't get into that now. We do design for every screen. So now I'm going to go back to chaos. And I just say that a lot of this chaos has been a lot of fun for me because of all these new platforms and new tools we get to work with. But it is hard to find a precedent or even a metaphor for what we're experiencing now. It's been compared to the building of the railroads, and I think that's a fair comparison. It's also been compared to the Industrial Revolution. But what we're experiencing now is way more personal, and it affects pretty much everyone on the planet. And it's all about connection and communication. The best precedent I've found is the beginning of the Renaissance. And that's the time when there was a shift in technology. It completely changed everything, how humans think, and our awareness of history, and how we communicate and share ideas. Now, this is Johann Gutenberg. Does everyone know who Johann Gutenberg is? What did he do? Does anyone know what he did? How was he known for?
He wrote the Bible.
He wrote the Bible. He didn't write the Bible, and he didn't invent the printing press either, and it's even debatable that he even invented movable type. But what he really did was he invented mass communication. His refinements of printing processes made mass production of books possible. And the result was this explosion in the exchange of ideas and what we call the Renaissance. And there was no precedent at that time for communication at this scale. So he basically was combining and refining existing technologies to create this whole new industry. Kind of like this guy. He combined existing and emerging technologies to create new platforms, creating market disruptions that changed the way people communicate and experience media. And by the way, this isn't even 2 years ago. This was when he introduced the iPad. It's starting in April. It's been with us 2 years. So I want to talk a bit about disruptive technologies. Disruptions have become so rampant, as I said before, that chaos has become the normal state of business. In the past decade, we have seen tube TVs and photographic film and computer disks pretty much disappear, and now we're even seeing the demise of physical media. It is the framework which changes with each new technology and not just the picture within the frame. And does everyone know who Marshall McLuhan is? He was a futurist who wrote about media. he had lots and lots of great insights and really pithy quotes from 50 years ago, and he was amazingly prophetic about how media would change the world. In this quote, he's describing the times he lived in, which would have been, 60s and 70s, but it's even more true now, the times we're living in. So if you look around, you'll see all kinds of disconnects where technology and content are out of sync. And I'll give you a few examples. I'm sure everyone is aware of their own examples of this, but I want just consider how young these internet giants are, and that most are just started in the last decade, and how much they influence us now and influence everyone in the world. And as for impact, more video is uploaded to YouTube every 2 months than ABC, NBC, and CBS has aired since they began broadcasting in the 40s. And if Facebook were a country, it would be the 4th largest in the world. Let's talk about just this difference. This seems like a very small change, the difference between 3rd generation and 4th generation mobile data systems. It sounds like, okay, well, it's the next model. It's new and improved, which it is. But let's look a little deeper. And you look at the difference in the speed. And this is a minimum standard. 4G will actually go up to 100 megabits a second, but this is what the services are delivering now. Unless it gets throttled. But that's a very big difference. It's like the difference of, on your iPhone right now, you can have one streaming standard def video stream, and 4G, it's 2 simultaneous high definition video streams. That's about 8 times the bandwidth. It's comparable to broadband in 2001, like your DSL. 2001 is what 3G is like. A lot of you probably think, well, it feels like a fast dial-up. But 4G is going to be like a fast cable modem. What are the implications of that? It's going to really change how we rely on our smart devices. There won't be any waiting or buffering. Comparison shopping in a store would be instantaneous. We'll just end up relying a lot more on our phones to just do regular computing and media consumption. And you might wonder, well, will people adapt to this? You have to consider that this year, for the first time, there are more mobile smart devices in use than there are people in the world, and it's growing. Here's another example of a technology disruption. For 60 years, all televisions in North America, regardless of the size, had this exact same definition, the same resolution, which is 640 by 480. And in the last decade, we didn't just get better resolution, we got lots of better resolutions. This is the resolution of the iPhone 2, 960 by 640, iPad 2, 1024 by 768, high definition, 1920 by 1080, iPad 3, 2048 to 1440. And then this is the largest monitor that you can buy, and that's the cinema display, and that's what you're going to need if you want to do one-to-one development for the new iPad. So you can see that, and this, I'm not even talking about, the Fire has its own resolution, the Galaxy does, laptops have different resolutions, phones do, and all sorts of devices like cameras have all different resolutions. So it's become very, very fluid, and I think it's just becoming, where resolution is just becoming adaptive, and it can be any size or proportion. And here's a really great example of a technology content disconnect. I've looked, and I cannot find any standard definition televisions. Here's another store. I can't even find one that's not high definition. So at Primal Screen, we do a lot of broadcast work, and surprisingly, most cable networks still have standard definition broadcasts, which you can see is a lot smaller. But it's not the scale as much as the proportion that's so annoying. You're cutting out 20% of the picture. And what they do, they just cut out the 4:3 center and broadcast that. So we have to make it wide and high def, and then they cut out the middle and shrink it down. Here's what I'm talking about. So there's a full high definition image. So we whack out the middle, and this is what you get how you get to watch it on your TV, because you can only get a widescreen high definition television. They haven't sold standard def TVs since 2005. So you can stretch it wide, or you can blow it up, and none of these are really good options. So here we are in the age of fluid resolution. I consider that a big disconnect. So what does that mean for you? Now, there's a whole range of new opportunities, new platforms that have just come online because of these disruptive technologies. And that's what I want to talk about right now. I want to start with this quote from the renowned futurist Alvin Toffler. "The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn." This is probably the biggest point I'm going to make today, because to really thrive in this new age, you really need to keep an open mind and be very good at acquiring new skills, just because of the flux of change. So here's a few platforms. We're going to be seeing more of this. This is e-paper. It might even make tablets obsolete. Imagine just a flexible film that's kind of like a menu that holds a lot of books. And it might work like a solar calculator and uses no batteries. You'll pinch the corner or flex it to change the page. The surface, the weight, the size, color, it's all going to be variable and specified, much like we do with paper now. It's interesting that more than half of all book sales on Amazon are for e-readers. Well, let's look at another technology, locative technology. It's another development that I'm sure everyone already has several locative apps on their phone. It puts a virtual marker over a physical view. Augmented reality, it's where you get an animated character or object mapped into your environment when you look through your screen. Environments, this is something that's very new to this millennium. So what can you do with environments? This is a piece you've probably seen. It's a group in Germany called Urban Screen. It's a collective of artists, architects, and technical experts. And they employ new technologies. They create these amazing environmental experiences. I'm going to just show you just a glimpse of their latest project. It's a set using creative video mapping for the opera Idomeneo by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, who, by the way, was only 25 when he conducted the orchestra at the premiere in 1781. Here it is in 2001. Here's another example of environmental application that Primal Screen did. Atlanta has a design museum, and they just opened a new location across the street from the High, and we do all the screens in the museum. There's a 4-monitor array in the lobby. There's 4 interactive touch screens in the galleries, and 6 projectors. Here's an example. This is the array in the lobby. You can also see it from the street. So we think of both scales, like somebody right up close to it and then someone looking at it from the road. They're all synchronized high-definition monitors. This is one of the touch screens in the gallery. Okay, education. This is the next big institution to be turned on its head. The effectiveness of interactive educational apps is really well documented. It's infinitely scalable, and it engages sight, hearing, and touch. It combines the best practices of our time, and it can be continuously updated. By combining gaming technology with curriculum, we can create all kinds of very immersive interactive experiences and reality simulations. This video shows a new technology from IDEO Labs, which is called iCube, and it's just basically this insanely real 3D experience that tracks the parallax to the viewer with these glasses. Here's another really great example. Apple's recently opened a textbook area in the iBook store. And this is Life on Earth, which is a free high school biology textbook. I suggest you download it and take a look. Because a few minutes after I downloaded it, I realized that this is the future of textbooks. The experience is really rich. And who hasn't had to haul around a bunch of really heavy, out-of-date textbooks? So, in order to make my case why this is such a great time for designers, I need to put design into a historical context. So here's how graphic design has evolved. I want to start with a quote from my favorite mentor, Tibor Kalman, and I used to work for him, and he had just as good a quotes as Marshall McLuhan. He said, "Graphic design is a means, not an end, a language, not content." And this is a really great definition of design. So I want to just talk real quickly about how design has evolved since the coining of the term. Actually, 100 years ago, the term graphic design had not really been even used. No one really even talked about design. Media artists were only concerned with the form of the expression. Basically, it took everything they had to do just to get the writing typesetted on paper, to make a respectable layout. And at that time, all mass communication was still done with printing. And all recorded human knowledge was print. And that was for something over 700 years. And broadcast had not really begun, and cinema was in its infancy. But the concept of design as a problem-solving process took hold in the 20s and the 30s. And it was, somewhat led and influenced by the Bauhaus. Communication design began to be considered an integrated expression of words and images, and so that the form and the message became inseparable. But designers were still concerned with just the form and the content. Communication platforms were still mostly static and 2D. So as new tools and technologies and platforms have become available, we find ourselves orchestrating very complex messages over multiple platforms. So we have to know a lot. Now we're responsible for understanding the form, the context, and the content, and they're all pretty much equally important. And of course, how it's all affected over time, because now we really create experiences as a means of expression. So our messages have many, many different touch points and context. So I'm going to come back to this in just a minute. But first I want to talk about the content, or more specifically, the story. This is Joseph Campbell. He wrote a book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces. And in this book he describes what he calls the monomyth. And it's derived from years of comparative studies of all the world's religions and literature. And he found that there's this certain story that was repeated over and over. The monomyth is also called the hero's journey. It's sort of a mythic adventure that starts with a contented innocent who's chosen to do something great. Now, he's reluctant at first, but when the situation becomes dire and confronts him personally, he accepts his fate. He goes to a hellish place and defeats some dark force, eventually returning to his own world a little changed. He literally goes to hell and back, and this pattern is repeated over and over. It's the book of Jonah. It's Ulysses. It's Star Wars. It's Halo. It's The Wizard of Oz. It's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The oldest recorded stories are really not written at all, but drawn sequentially. This is the Chauvet cave paintings that Werner Herzog just did that documentary about. These cave paintings are 32,000 years old. The oldest written records are only 5,000 years old. So that does mean that the oldest records of human experience are cartoons. And every great civilization made cartoons. The Egyptians, the Mayans, the Greeks, the Romans, the Japanese, and even today. The point is that stories are eternal. The content isn't really changing as much as it seems. It's the way it's expressed that's in flux. So back to the three concerns of the designer. The form and context is what's really, really changing. But the content is fairly constant. That's where we are. So the designer is at the nexus of technology and the human experience. That's why all this disruption makes it the most exciting time ever to be working in media or to be a designer, because we're that important. We connect it. We make it work. We connect the dots. I just want to close with this great quote from Bob Dylan: "Chaos is a friend of mine." And that's it. Thank you.
Do a Q&A.
Okay. She said, "How hard has it been to adapt to new technologies?" Not too hard. It's exciting. Is there any other questions? I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to explain that really. But I mean, it's constant. You know, you really have to really keep your eyes open and look for. The disruptions are road signs. They're signals of what's up ahead. And that's why I talked about the technology disruptions. He's asking, was the transition gradual or basically I worked at this place called Big Fish Studios 35 years ago. And we were very much a traditional design consultancy, but and he was asking, well, how did I transition to doing motion and stuff? But my answer is that everyone's transitioned to that. I mean, the stuff we were doing back in the early 80s and 70s would be somewhat obsolete now. I mean, we were doing posters, and we were doing record album covers and stuff that you just don't do. Electronic media has become the primary platform. So I think everyone who's in design has changed, has transitioned. Lynn's asking if I find myself having to teach our clients about disruptive technologies. No, not really. They're pretty well aware of it. Most of our clients are in media, so they're painfully aware of it. David Laufer? What's the correct resolution? David was asking, where should the Online Piracy Act go? Like, I guess you're wondering like what my opinion is. I think that the act as written is pretty ludicrous because of having the government being able to shut down a website just because somebody posted something. I mean, piracy is an issue, and I agree that that people their intellectual property has value and it should be respected, but I think the way that law they should just give it up and try something else. That's what I think. That's a good question. He's asking if we have to retrain or train people or hire new people to cover new specialties, and the answer is we do. We continually train, and I have to say that used to it involved going to like seminars and buying DVD sets and things to teach different, like mostly like software. Now you go online, and there's so many opportunities. Like if lynda.com, Video Copilot, or sites where you can go and watch tutorials about anything. And there's always YouTube too. You just think of something you need to do, and there's going to be at least 10 videos on YouTube about how to do it. I mean, anything. So we do online training, and yes, we do also hire specialties. Yes. I think what you're asking is now the tools have been democratized. I mean, everybody's got these great tools, and they're on their cell phone. I mean, everyone can shoot and edit and upload high-definition video on their cell phone, basically, or everyone's got Creative Suite. I think that's great. It does tend to put a downward value on what we do on content production. But at the same time, over 100 years ago, George Eastman put a camera in the hands of the masses, and it didn't make everyone a photographer. So I think it's still like that, and I think it's great that people have cameras and Photoshop. But what we do isn't just that. It's just not making pictures. It's not just making the content. That's really not what design is. Yes, in the green shirt. He asked, is there a spot or a campaign or something that just blows me away? And there's a lot of stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. Just the other day, I was watching the American version of the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and I thought the opening credits blew me away. Yes, all the way in the back. She's asking, how do we decide to pursue new platforms? Or what we do is we prepare. We try to spot the trends, and then we start preparing, looking at stuff, researching, seeing if we can do it. We also try to make new offerings to our clients that reflect, so it's a chicken egg thing. We try to create the skill and sell it at the same time and learn it while we're going. So that's, and you never quite know how things are going to go, really. But in the front here, he's asking, how long do I think it'll be before all videos will become interactive? I think okay. I want to say that there's always going to be a place for linear stories because, our lives are linear. And that's kind of how we go through the world. And I think that interaction, so, there'll always be not every video should be interactive, but accessing the video and playing it all, that's already interactive, and it's going to just become easier and more interactive. But I don't know if does that answer your question? I think with education, interaction becomes very important, and now most of what is available are tutorials, but simulations and interactive video for that would be really good, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot of that. Oh, is it in the front here? She's asking, how does the social thing, everything being connected, how does it affect our work? I don't know, it's a really big deal. I think it's social media is a lot of, it influences everything, how something's going to be perceived, because anything you put out there is going to be, somebody will talk about it one way or the other, and you hope to get people talking about it. So, we always have, we consider more audiences. We consider that there's really not a mass market as much as there used to be, that everything's narrowcast. So we do think a lot more about the user experience with everything because of that, because we know people will be talking about it and they'll share it if it relates to them and pan it if it doesn't. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. All right, thanks.